What's up guys, welcome back to MacMerlin. Today we've got the XMIT 60% wooden keyboard with Hall effect switches. Stay tuned till after the break to see what it's all about. Before we begin this review, I just want to clarify that I did not purchase round one of these keyboards, so I won't be comparing this new one to the old one. This is also not my personal copy, and in fact, I actually borrowed this during the NorCal meetup. I do have to return this eventually, but I'll still be giving my honest opinions. There's actually several variants of the keyboard. There's one based on the Sun layout, an 1800, a full-sized, but this is the 60%. Do keep in mind that whatever I say about this keyboard may not apply to the rest of the keyboards in this lineup. The case is made out of raw bamboo that has been bonded together with the urethane resin to create contiguous sheets. There are 3 total pieces. You've got the top half, bottom half, and the feet. Random fact. Botanically speaking, bamboo is not a wood, it's actually a grass. So for all of you guys putting keyboards on grass, stop it. This keyboard is already encased in grass. The case is low profile, with the bottom of the switches exposed for all the world to see. As mentioned earlier, it's got feet in the form of a long strip of wood, grass I mean, screwed into the bottom. You don't really have any way of changing the board's angle other than unscrewing this. There are also rubber pads all over the bottom to prevent slippage. In terms of flex, there is hardly any. I'd even argue that this keyboard exhibits less flex than some 60% I've reviewed on this channel. The board supports a USB mini B plug on the right side. I like how it's recessed and that the wood fully encloses the USB port. I think this reduces the chances of damaging the plug. Unfortunately, because it is recessed, you won't be able to use any right angle USB cables. There's also very minimal branding on this board, which I really appreciate. You've only got one on the bottom right and on the back. Keycaps are really nice. They are PBT POM double shot shine through with non-gamer legends. If you're not familiar with PBT or POM, they are some of the most durable plastics for keycap making. Having the legends double shot means that they will never wear off. In fact, the keycap and the legend will wear at roughly the same rate. In terms of mass-produced OEM keycaps, I think this is one of the best you can get. This keyboard has a lot going for it, but you're probably not buying it for any of those features that I just mentioned. You're buying it because it's got Hall effect switches. Compared to a mechanical switch, the Hall sensor is inherently bounce-free and water-resistant, and it offers short response time. Key action is super smooth because there are no contacts being brought together. Plus, since there are no contacts to wear out, the keys will last a lifetime, or as long as the magnets stay strong and the plastics don't wear out. It doesn't stop there. These switches also have Cherry MX stems, so you can use pretty much any keycap set out there. And it's also got in-switch lighting. So what do I have to say about them? On Massdrop, you're only able to buy the tactile and clicky variant, but apparently there's a way to modify them to make them linear. In terms of how much these switches wobble, these stems are less wobbly than Gateron's, but more wobbly than Cherry. In terms of smoothness, I'd say they are on par with Kale box switches. In terms of the click, it's a much lower pitch than MX Blues or even Kale box whites. The Massdrop link describes the clicky as being fairly similar to Blue Alps and the tactile being close to Orange Alps. I've been using this keyboard for roughly a week, and I have to say, these are probably the most tactile clicky switch I've ever used. In terms of how they compare with SKCM Blue Alps though, I'd say the Massdrop description is fairly accurate. So keep in mind, you won't really get an Alps feeling unless you're using another Alps switch, but these come fairly close in my opinion. I would say that the SKCM Blues have a more dampened click, but these clicky Hall effects have a larger and sharper tactile bump. These exhibit some binding similar to Cherry ML switches, if you've ever tried any of those before. If you listen to my typing sounds video, you can actually hear it whenever the binding occurs. If it came down to purely a typing experience, I would still use the SKCM Blues. But I really hate clicky switches, so I naturally gravitate to switches that click the least. Stabilizers are also not your typical Cherry or Co-Star. The stabilizer stems can actually be taken out. In my opinion, this is great because you'll never accidentally pop off the stabilizers when changing keycaps. It's also a lot easier to lube, and unfortunately, these stabilizers rattle so much that you really do need to lube them up. This is what the PCB looks like. It's coated in epoxy to be waterproof. If you ever spill a drink on it, you can actually take apart the case and wash the case and PCB with water to get rid of the residue. Just don't do any underwater typing, because the case is still bamboo, so any amount of moisture will eventually destroy it. The PCB is actually well manufactured. Even the soldering is pretty good. You don't see any extra globs of solder, you don't see any burn marks. Another exciting feature about this board is that it's programmable, but it's not advertised on the Massdrop link. Alright guys, so to program this you first need to download the correct tools. You can do this by going to XMITkeyboards.com. Once you get there, make sure you go over to Hall Effect Mechanical Keyboards and hit Remapping Tools. You'll have the right file to download right there. After you've downloaded it, you should get 3 separate files, one of them being the XMIT Key Remapper. That's the tool that you need. So open it up and you'll get something like this. Since we're on a 60% board, let's hit 61 key. Okay, so the way this works is that all of your key selections will be on the top and your resulting key map will be on the bottom. You need to drag and drop. So for example, if you want your A key to actually be an S, you need to click the S on the top and drag it to the A. So I've done this a lot, so I'm pretty used to it, but if you don't click right in the center and then you don't drop right in the center, it won't actually take. So what happens if you want to do any of your function layers? Okay, so first of all, you can see that the FN is actually grayed out here. That's because you can't actually move it. Okay, and here's the weird thing. You may have all of these options, but the only ones that really work are F5 through F8. See, so for example, if you want 5 to be the rewind function, you do the same drag and drop. It works just fine, right? But what happens if you want to use insert or home? Let's move insert to U. See, it's not working. No matter how much I try, it doesn't quite work. Let's see, how about right alt, move it to K? Nope, doesn't work either. But F1, nope. Escape, nope. Yeah, you're only really allowed to use F5 through F8, which is to rewind, fast forward, I think that's a play button, I can't really see, it's too small, and stop. So once you've actually figured out your key map, which you can't really do much of, then you hit Activate New Map, and this will flash your keyboard. If you decide that you don't like the key map, then just hit Restore Standard Map. So yes, programming is absolutely abysmal, and I'd say it's almost not worth it. Fortunately, the microcontroller is the Cortex M0, which QMK is compatible with via Chibi OS. If you guys wait long enough, someone in the community may actually just port this. It might be a while, so don't hold your breath. Okay, since programming isn't really up to par, this is what the default layout looks like, and this is what you can do with the keyboard. This keyboard has features that I really like. It's got the Hall effect switches, RGB lighting, stabilizers that are easy to remove. But if I could change a few things, I'd probably ask for a high profile case, an angled case that does not need feet, and of course, better programmability. But if someone can figure out how to make QMK work with this, then we're all good. Thanks again for watching. I'm hoping this review has given you just a little bit more information so that you can make a better purchasing decision. If you want to know more, make sure you hit up the Massdrop link and check out the discussion section. If you're new here, check out my other reviews, and I'll see you all next time.